Okay, let's get the second seminar underway. The next seminar will have Vanessa Villalobos, the creator of JapaneseLondon.com, talking about the contrasts of Japan. So maybe it's a bit cliched, but you probably all know that Japan is the land of paradoxes. So you've got the ancient culture on one hand, and you've got the super modern technology on the other. So Vanessa will be talking about these aspects of Japan and giving us an idea of the various crazy aspects that you will encounter when you head out to Japan. So if we could have a hand for Vanessa, please.
Thanks very much. So thank you for coming. I'm in the right position, I believe. I think. Okay, so as he said, and if you've had a quick look at the outline of the talk, it's just a general overview about the contrasts of Japan. And we all hear about that, but when you go and you experience that, it's very mind-opening. And I think that that's what I gained from my time in Japan, was the ability to understand that lots of things which are perhaps even opposite are simultaneously true. And that's been very beneficial for me since then. So I've continued to be very interested in Japanese culture. So I think it's not just the modern versus the traditional. Of course, it's the Japanese versus the Western. And any mix of those things can be found all together at any time. So let's have a quick look. I thought how to organize such a massive topic of which people have very varying experiences. And I just thought I'd have a quick, simple walk through a day in Japan and the kind of choices that you might be making about everything when you're there. So a day in Japan, always the same, always different. These are, many photos are from my 3-week trip around Japan this past summer. And the other ones are from Wikipedia, so I haven't kind of written that, but I'll acknowledge Wikipedia. Thank you very much, Wiki. And I'd just like to say, before I forget, I've just got some leaflets, and this is about my website if you wanted to take one. The name's easy enough to remember, JapaneseLondon.com, and if you sign up to the newsletter, even if you're not London-based, if you have a look at the site, you will find out how to find out more information about London-based Japan-related activities. So please have a look. So let's start. Whoa. Oh, here we go. Sorry, it's not my computer. There we go. Okay. So what I've got here is the... Oh, this is a bit funny. Sorry. Oh.
You just press the arrow keys.
Yeah, that's what I'm... That one. Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. I've actually come... There we are. Okay, so I thought this was a nice picture just to begin with, just to encapsulate what we're dealing with here. This is actually taken in... well, if you'll recognize the tower, so you'll know the kind of area that it is, perhaps. Just near Asakusa, this is Kappa Bashe, which is an area of Tokyo that traditionally has manufactured kitchen goods, various things, pots and pans, and also the plastic food, which is so popular. That's where you can go to get it. I wanted to pick some up, just a beer pouring or something like that, but they were about £50. So I thought that was quite a lot to pay for a trick. And it's actually very specialised. So this area has these small shops which are very, very specialised, been there for a very long time. And of course you can see we've got some Godzilla picture there. And the truck, this is very typical, used in the countryside. And obviously here we're in the middle of the city where it's also proving useful. And in the background, we can see the Sky Tree, which just opened this summer. So the height of modernity in the middle of Tokyo. So I think that gives, just an idea of the kind of contrast that you just see everywhere. Who am I? Why am I talking to you about this? My name is Vanessa, creator of Japanese London, expert in things Japanese in London. I lived there for 3 years on the JET program, and I'm current chair of JET London and the UK. So, ohayo gozaimasu. Good morning. Your beginning of your day, you could be sleeping in a Western bed. Many people choose to have a Western bed. Many people choose to have a futon. And of course, if you've been to Japan, you may have stayed on a futon. It's on the tatami mats, and I think it's a very convenient use of space. I think people tend to know about this. You can fold it up, put it away in the cupboard behind there, and use your room for other purposes during the day. So right from the beginning of your day, you're potentially in a modern room, or you could be in a traditional room, and then your next step from there will be one of these things. I'm not sure which order. So if we look at the traditional Japanese breakfast, a lot of people have rice, fish, miso soup, seaweed. This was a breakfast that we enjoyed in a ryokan, traditional hotel, in Kanazawa this year. And it was very nice. And the other one is a Japanese Western style breakfast, which often includes things that we might not necessarily think that we'd have for breakfast in the UK, such as salad or pineapple. You could do, I do. And then the bread is very, very thick. And of course, we've got the toilet situation. So the traditional squat toilets, this is a very nice looking one. And you've got your toilet slippers, which you must be very careful to take off before you then walk out of the toilet again and go back into the restaurant. So they're only to be worn in the toilet. And the Western toilet, many people have these in their homes. I'm sure you can see the squirt of water coming out. So it does double as a bidet, which is very nice, and has all these controls. So it always seems like quite a contrast, because not only is there a traditional choice and then a Western, it's actually much more sophisticated than what we have here. I think most houses, if they don't have this bidet function on the toilet, will at least have a heated toilet seat, which is very nice indeed. And I just found this sign in a in a bathroom, and it's important to use either of them finally. So your next step in your day will be what to wear. And uniforms and clothing are taken very seriously in Japan, and there will be a uniform for practically everything. If you were to do a Google search, you can see, for example, the cleaners of Shinkansen, the bullet trains. I noticed that I didn't get a picture, they were wearing fetching pink, head to toe pink matching trainers. I think they had a necktie, they had a hair tie, and that is because there's a task to be done, and the correct clothes are necessary to do that, and it makes people understand what you're doing, and you also feel part of the community that you're in. So the man in the greenish grey, he's a crane driver. So this color of clothing is for people doing things such as maybe handyman work, driving a crane, some construction, and for some reason this color is what people wear. Next to him you can see these trousers. These are typically worn by construction workers with the tabi shoes, the ones with the separate toe. I've always wondered why they wear these. My husband's taken to wearing them around London, which causes surprise. If the construction workers are up high, the wind moves the trousers and they can feel which direction the wind is coming. This is what was explained to me, and this is why these wide trousers are very sensitive and can help you not fall off the building. And also, of course, the shoes, you can feel where you're stepping if you're kind of up on a big iron rail or something like that, which is the way the houses tend to be constructed. So I'll keep moving around. That's obviously me in a yukata, the summer kimono, and this is usually worn for festivals and special occasions. It's informal. The kimono, of course, is much more formal and more difficult to put on. It's quite a skill. And we have the ubiquitous school uniform. They were copied in the 1800s. There was a young king, I'm afraid, I can't remember, George, there was a photo of him wearing a sailor uniform, which was very fashionable for children in the UK at that time. And that became very popular in Japan, and that's when they started to adopt the sailor uniforms for school uniforms. So many, many schools still have that, and it's very much a part of popular culture. And it's also featured in manga and anime, isn't it? This sailor uniform. So these guys in the bottom are cosplayers, and costume play is dressing up as your favorite character from anime or manga. And there are lots of conventions. This is very popular all around the world these days. And just finally, this guy here, I think this is an interesting contrast because he's working in a camera store. So this might be in Akihabara in Tokyo, Technology Village, which is well known for the latest in technology, Japanese design. But yet he is wearing a happy coat, which is the men's festival wear, and his around his neck it says the camera store that he's working for. So it's interesting that they've kind of got a uniform which is for a very modern business, but yet represents this kind of festive feel and traditional look. So after you've gotten dressed, you might like to go somewhere. So this is just a few things which caught my eye. Obviously the Shinkansen bullet train is an excellent high-speed network. If you go to Japan, not on a residence visa, you can get a Japan Rail Pass, which if you haven't heard about, you're planning on going, do look into that. We got a rail pass, and it's just fantastic because traveling on the Shinkansen is really fun to start with, and then you can just pop off somewhere that's really, really far just for the day. We were staying in Kyoto and we went to Hiroshima just for the day because we could, and then we got some specialities of kind of a fried pancake okonomiyaki from Hiroshima and took it back to eat on the train all the way. So obviously we've got this modern way of getting around. We've got the commuter rush, which is a very common image of Tokyo and the big cities in Japan. Everybody kind of wearing the same thing and off to work, maybe falling asleep on the train because they're working hard. But then there's also the other side where you actually might be going to work through a rice field, riding a bicycle. The bicycle is very popular, and most people ride a bike when they're not on the train. So this is a huge parking area here. Sometimes you see multi-story car parks where they they pile them up, and there's all sorts of interesting variations there. That's just a look at that Shinkansen coming in. So you might be going off to work. I've just got a few images that are. I tried to show the diversity of what you might be doing. You might be doing something very traditional, or the picture in the top right. This is a robot this man has made of himself, which is obviously, when you see it, actually, that picture, you can tell which one is a robot, can't you? But it was on the news, and it was actually very difficult to tell. So you could be working, in this very advanced technological side of things. We've got the very modern cityscape. It looks quite futuristic. Or there's a great deal of farming still. Any land which can be used to farm rice is used. It's very, everywhere you look are rice fields, even in the smallest, most unlikely little corner. If it can be used to grow rice, it will be. So many people are still employed in farming outside the city. This image is of factory workers wearing this wonderful color uniform. And so they could be working, this could be I can't see any indication of what company it is. It could be a car factory or mobile phones or technology. But they are exercising to radio taiso, which is exercises that they will all do together, and it's stretching and getting them ready for the day. So even if they're involved in quite a sophisticated, modern factory, they'll still be doing some traditional exercises like this to get warmed up for the day. And they may sing a company song or something like that. So the play section, things that you might do in your leisure time in Japan. We've so as you can see, let's just go through. We've got the very traditional, the very serene things, and then we've got kind of frenetic, electric, modern things to entertain yourself with. I'm not sure which pictures this is going to zoom in on, so just let me talk about some things before I do that. I think in terms of the food, the picture of the food machine, and there's the plastic food and the menu. This was a restaurant that we went to, and it was fascinating, really, because there was this machine where you pay for your food. You can select your food by looking at the pictures above or looking at the actual replicas of the food. So it doesn't just have one or the other. And as you can see, there is actually somebody there, but at no point will you actually talk to them. This is actually outside the shop as well. So you do that outside, and then you go in and you sit down. I think in this shop they do bring it to the table, but the amount of automation here for a very, very small restaurant in a not very big city is quite astounding, I felt. And let's just zoom in here. So, sorry, it's a bit blurry. I'll talk to Wikipedia about the image quality. This is Pachinko. So it's kind of a slot machine. You get small metal balls, which you feed into the machine, and it's just luck of the draw gambling. And these Pachinko halls are absolutely huge, very noisy, very popular. You see them everywhere. And so it's intense kind of noise, and it's very kind of isolated, really. It's the same as going in and playing a slot machine here. You just kind of focus on that, and it makes noises and lights and all that kind of thing. So that might be something that people really enjoy doing in their spare time. They're always full. People make huge queues outside new pachinko parlors when they open because the machines are set up so that you'll have a likelier chance of winning. So, on the other hand, you might go to a famous temple or garden and you might just sit and do nothing but look at rocks. So on the other end of the scale, this is in Kyoto, and this is in the famous rock garden there. Oh, we've gone there. And holidays and celebrations. So this is a kind of assortment of things which are quite odd. So, for example, let's take White Day up in the corner there. White Day was a reaction of I believe, chocolate company, although it started with marshmallows. The Valentine's Day concept was imported to Japan by manufacturers of chocolates to encourage people to buy chocolates. But for some reason, it became just women buy chocolates for men on Valentine's Day. So to equal that out, a month later, they introduced, I don't mean a month later, it's a month after Valentine's Day, they introduced a day called White Day. And this is when men buy white presents for females, which may be white chocolate or a squidgy white seal cub or white lingerie or something like that. So it's interesting the way that this concept has just been kind of sprung from Valentine's Day, which was kind of taken over to make people buy chocolate. And the Christmas aspect of things, I think people find fascinating. This is a Christmas cake. And when Japanese people think about Christmas, they will think of this Christmas cake. Not everybody gets one, but that's the image. It is a cake that is iced in white and set with strawberries. And I have no idea why that has become the Christmas cake. I suppose maybe it looks like snow, but the other thing I do know why. In the corner here, we've got Kentucky Fried Chicken. So that is what many Japanese people will associate with Christmas Day. It's important to go and get your Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, and a large queue can form outside Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I did do a little bit of research there, and I found it was simply because turkey has not been widely available in Japan. It's not a traditional food that people eat in Japan, and it's a bit of an acquired taste, I think, turkey. So it's just never. I don't think turkey's very happy in Japan. I don't know why. So that's never taken off there. So apparently it may be an urban legend, but this was started by an American who went to KFC on Christmas Day and said, maybe perhaps to a reporter, or somebody just caught them and said, why are you here? And they said, well, I can't get turkey, so I'm going to get some chicken, which is kind of similar, and I'm going to celebrate Christmas with KFC. So that idea caught on, and now the cake and the KFC are things which people will enjoy on Christmas Day. So we do have some other traditional festivals here. We've got, for example, the cherry blossom. This picture is not very clear, is it? There are some people picnicking underneath the cherry blossom. They spread it's still sometimes quite a chilly time of year, and they spread a blue tarp on the floor. I don't know why it's blue, it always is. And underneath the trees, and enjoy celebrating the spring, the transience, and the beauty of the cherry blossoms with their colleagues and family. So they really observe, Japanese culture really observes the seasonal changes, and this is just one of the examples. The fish streamers are for Boys' Day, which is later on in the spring, and that's just celebrating boys, their kind of cheerful vigor. And finally, at the bottom, this is a festival in Kyoto, which is quite ancient, where they carry these ones are not carried, they're too big. They bring out, a lot of the festivals, they bring out portable shrines called omikoshi, or ones on wheels like this, massive shrines, which they parade through the streets, and they have much celebration and dancing and drinking. So if you ever I just missed this in Kyoto this year, which is a real shame. So if you're planning to visit Kyoto in the summer, try and see if you can get to this festival. But there are festivals all over Japan of so many different varieties, celebrating everything you can think of. So it's always great to try and get to one of these, because the atmosphere is very, very open, and you'll be able to mingle with locals. It'll get really, really full up later on in the evening, and everybody will be having some sake and whatnot. Oh, here we are. So this brings me to the end of the journey. We went off on a bit of a digression there on holiday, and now I just wanted to say, try to experience Japan for yourself if you haven't been there, or if you've been before. There's always more to learn, isn't there? This has just been a general overview of a very huge topic, so I hope you may have found it interesting. While you're still in London or in the UK, if you're interested in Japanese things, there are so many opportunities for you to experience Japanese things. The Japan Society holds many events and exhibitions and talks and all sorts of things. Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation, some of these are represented in the exhibition. The Japan Foundation. My website is just an independent kind of labour of love, trying to bring together some of the things that are not covered by the institutions. So maybe some more independent things. So if you look at the website, you can sign up for the newsletter, and I'll try to keep you informed. I think I would like to see if you have any questions about anything that you've seen at all.
Can you just wait a second for asking your question and use the mic?
Yes, hello. I have a question about Tokyo. You have shown some pictures from Tokyo, but I haven't seen many cars at all. Is it not popular to drive in Tokyo?
It is a very busy city centre, but because it is so busy, many people will choose not to drive. So there's the excellent transportation service, very large tube network, underground network, and lots of taxis. So it does get very, very busy. So driving in Tokyo is not particularly advised if you're not a taxi driver. Any other questions? Wow. I've told you everything you possibly want to know.
Oh, one at the back. Okay, just shout.
Is there like a sub language, or that everyone speaks, or is it just one? Because in some cases, like South Africa, for instance, they have 12 languages. Like, I was just wondering.
About the language, yeah, that's a very good point, which I haven't covered at all, have I? Yes, there is just one language in Japan, Japanese, but there are dialects. It's the same as the UK. If you go into the countryside, if you perhaps talk to somebody older, they will use words that you're not familiar with. Originally, there was another population in Hokkaido, which is the Ainu, and they were originally a separate race of the original inhabitants of Japan, and they do have their own language and culture, but that is quite historical, and the Ainu people, I'm sure, will speak Japanese these days. Ainu. Yeah. It's AINU. Something just on the Ainu topic, which I don't know if this is as interesting to other people as it is to me. In London in 1910, there was an exhibition and it's on the kind of the site where the BBC is now, over by White City, on quite a large area, and they built a massive park of Oriental things. Japanese was the focus, although not everything would be actually properly Japanese, kind of like the dinosaurs in Crystal Palace. And they actually brought over an Ainu family, and they lived on that site for 1 year, and some of the women had children while they were here, living there. And then and people went and looked, and they did the things that the traditional Ainu people would do in Japan, in White City, for 1 year, and then they went back. So, that's the kind of thing which one can Google. There was an exhibition about this at the embassy fairly recently. Any other questions? No, that's fine. Well, I might just go through and maybe look at some of the subjects again. Let's just think. So everybody here is interested in going to Japan in some kind of way, perhaps going to study there, or to live there, or to work there, or to visit. So I'm just thinking about what could be more useful information. I think this, yes?
In terms of, sorry.
Yeah?
In terms of learning the language.
Yeah.
How long would it take you to achieve a useful level?
Thank you for that question. That's a useful question. So when I first went to Japan, I didn't speak any Japanese at all. I had studied it a little bit, but just a very little. So that was interesting because before I got a mobile phone, I felt that I couldn't really leave my house without carrying a map, because if I got lost, I wouldn't be able to ask where I was, and I didn't know what my address was because I couldn't read it. And they don't have street signs because areas are divided from large down to small, so it'll just be the area is where you live, not on a street. So I quickly then began to study Japanese, and within maybe 3 months or so, began to feel a lot more comfortable. So obviously fluency is a very, what do you say? It's a very wide area. I mean, are you fluent if you can read the newspaper, or if you can talk about politics, or, there's a functional fluency which can be developed within several months. Also, because Japanese society uses a lot of phrases, I'm sure you've heard this before, it uses a lot of phrases which are the same. If you're to introduce yourself, you'll say the same thing. If everybody here were to introduce themselves, they would say the same thing. They wouldn't all say, oh, hi, I'm so-and-so, well, they would all say pretty much exactly the same words. So if you learn about 10 phrases, you can actually, and you know when to apply them, you can actually appear to be quite functionally fluent, because if you can say, my name is, I'm from here, I can, I'm learning Japanese, nice to meet you, where's the toilet, I'd like a beer, and a few other pleasantries which are not easy to translate, like yoroshiku onegai shimasu, which basically means something along the lines of let's continue to have a good relationship with each other, and people say that a lot to each other. You can actually feel that you can use the same phrases quite a lot. Anyway, you know, I mean, you could study Japanese until you become completely, you know, versed in how to discuss very sophisticated issues. But I'd say within a year of being there, you begin to feel much more comfortable. Yeah.
As someone who came here from a different country, I wanted to ask how about culture shock when you got there. Did you feel like you stood out a lot because you know Asian, and how did you handle that? Can you maybe give us some tips?
That's another great question. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Culture shock is can be quite overwhelming. I'm sure many people have experienced it because everybody's been on holiday. But if you have, if you have actually kind of committed yourself to live in a different country, you'll have even more strong feelings. So I think what I did find very hard was the attitude. I worked in a fairly small town in a board of education, and people were very, very kind to me. It was wonderful, but there is always a feeling of, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. And I agree, absolutely. But the problem is when you don't know what the Romans do and you have absolutely no idea what's going on. And although you may, you'll research, you'll read books before you go, you can't be prepared for all the subtle nuances of the culture. So I really enjoyed it, and but sometimes I found it very hard. If I went to the supermarket, everybody would be kind of looking in my basket to see what I was buying, and then saying, "Oh, can you eat that?" And I think, well, yes, because I'm living here, so I'm obviously gonna try. So I think if you try everything as well, that's a really good attitude. It's very difficult for people who are very picky about food. I think when you go to Japan, I think you do need to really try to open up to different food experiences, because food is so important. Everywhere you travel in Japan will have a different speciality, and people tend to always know that. So for example, I worked in Tochigi, north of Tokyo, which is famous for gyoza dumplings in Utsunomiya, which are fantastic, and they grow strawberries and that kind of thing. So wherever you travel, people will know that. So I think, yes, just to come back around to the question, I think culture shock kind of, it goes up and down, and it's hard to know when it's just going to suddenly hit you, but it can be very, very exhilarating and very exciting as well to feel, if you're in this kind of go into Tokyo and see this modern metropolis and just think, wow, it really is a very strong experience, I think. And then you'll kind of plateau, and then when you come back to Europe, you think, oh, you have it all over again in opposite culture shock. Yeah.
How possible is it
To be vegetarian, it depends on if you eat fish. No. In Japan, people tend to assume that if you're vegetarian that you do eat fish. So that can pose challenges because you can't read the if you can't, you may be able to read the ingredients on food. And also, because fish is not thought of as being a meat, people will tell you that things are vegetarian when you would consider them to not be. So it can be challenging, but it's not impossible. And there is more awareness of Atsko's Kitchen here in London. Atsko, who runs that business, has been demonstrating a lot of the temple, the Buddhist traditional temple cuisine, and that kind of thing seems to be becoming more popular, and that has no meat in. So I think there is more awareness of that these days. Yes.
Your experience with the JET program, how much do you think you were experiencing Japanese culture, despite teaching English most of the time?
Well, because jets are placed mostly outside big cities, you will be absolutely immersed in Japanese culture, even though you're teaching English. So it can be difficult to learn Japanese because people want to speak English to you, and that is your job. And also people's English will tend to be, well, it was better than my Japanese, to start with. So then it's difficult to force the issue when you're like, I really just want to speak Japanese. So you do get completely kind of immersed in the culture on the JET program, because you'll be in a small town, and you need to try to get involved as much as possible in the town. For example, I did classes at the culture center, cooking classes, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a fantastic experience.
So shall we?
Yeah, we. Should
One more.
just get the last question, or no? That's it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. For a fascinating insight into some of the more zany aspects of Japanese culture. I might just add to what Vanessa said. If you want to experience Christmas in Japan, it's actually very important that you get your order in with Kentucky Fried Chicken early. You can't usually buy the Christmas chicken buckets on Christmas Day itself because they're so popular. And they started taking advanced orders for the Christmas buckets in my local KFC from mid-September this year. So Colonel Sanders is currently in full Santa Claus regalia outside my local KFC. So just a word of caution if you want to get your fried chicken in on Christmas Day. Thanks again, Vanessa. If you want to get some of the flyers for her website, they're down here. And I think, Vanessa, you'll be milling around after the event if you have any questions you'd like to ask directly. Thank you very much.